Hello and good morning and good afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is David Petreko and I join you from the Nautical Institute staff in London. And I'm very happy to be joined by this wonderful panel of maritime professionals from around the world. And you'll understand how far around the world they are when we introduce them individually. However, just before we do that, I'd just like to remind everybody that we are the Nautical Institute. We are an international professional body, and our main role in this is helping our members with professional development. Now, notice I said members. We are a membership organization, and we encourage everybody to join us as a member. Everybody is a maritime professional. There are different grades, but we have packages to suit everybody, and it's all about professionals sharing information. We share information collectively, not because any one of us has all the answers, but collectively, by sharing information, we can make much better decisions. So I'm so thrilled that we're doing this webinar today. This webinar is actually organized by our Young Members Council, and we'll hear more about that in a moment, but it is part of our diversity and inclusivity policy. And we're talking about today women as just one of those areas, and how important it is to bring that extra professionalism into our industry. Now, at the Nautical Institute, we do have a diversity and inclusivity pledge, and you can see it there. It is not just gender. It deals with race, ethnicity, age. These are all areas of diversity, and we want them included, because the more of these people we include, we get their ideas, and all ideas are great to learn from. I'll say some more than others, but all ideas are worth considering. So before we kick off, I'd just like to say this is an interactive webinar. We really want to hear your feedback. So please let us know. You can, there's an area, your microphones and your cameras will not work, but you can write in your comments. Now, we will answer as many questions and comments as we can, but if not, everything is being recorded. We will read everything. We are really keen on your feedback. So please, like I said, this isn't just about us sharing our ideas. We want to listen to your ideas. So please offer those. We will do a couple polls during the webinar. And again, please vote for those polls, because that will be also recorded and it will help us learn and progress. If you're interested in being a member, and why wouldn't you, unless of course you already are, there is a membership brochure in the handout area, so please download that and fill it out. After the webinar, just after the webinar ends, there'll be a little pop-up poll survey. It just helps us understand what we've done well and what we can do better. So please, if you can spare 2 minutes, fill that out. About 2 hours after the webinar finishes, you will get an email saying, thank you for attending, and it will be a certificate, a CPD certificate with your name on it that you can download and use for your records. So help yourself to that. This is being recorded. That recording will be on our YouTube channel, hopefully by the end of this week. So if you want to share that, it will be in the public sector. So this is a really important subject that we're covering today. So please, that will be a public resource that can be shared. You are not alone. Gosh, when I took this, there were 218. There are over 250 now people interested in this subject from all walks of life. So really, we're very keen. And again, we need your feedback. So that over, I would like to introduce Emily Bull, who is going to moderate this session on behalf of the Young Members Council. Emily is a chief mate from the US. She's currently serving as the chief officer on the MV Africa Mercy. And my gosh, full kudos for being on the Mercy ships. Well done. The African Mercy is engaged in an 11-month field service deployment to Senegal to improve female healthcare provision in the region. And prior to that, Emily was with the Sea Lift the Military Sealift Command in the US. So Emily, welcome. Thank you so much for organizing this. Thank you for moderating it. And I will disappear because that's the right thing to do. And it's over to you.
Thank you so much, David, for that introduction. Good morning from the US. Good evening to my friends in Australia. And it's really great to have people be tuned in from all over the world. That's one of the great things about the Nautical Institute, is that it brings this maritime industry together on a global scale. You know, we transport goods around the world, and now through this organization, I've also gotten to meet many people in the process that are more than just American. And I think that that's a really good thing. In this webinar, this is the second one that's been hosted by the Younger Members Council. And what that is it's a group of younger mariners that are under 35 that are appointed and by the Nautical Institute from each country. And they just get to be voices for the industry. And we're trying to start new initiatives like webinars like this. So I hope you enjoy for today. We will have 3 poll questions throughout this webinar this morning. 2 will happen first, and then a 3rd one will happen a little bit later. And it gives us a chance to test the pulse of the industry, what our opinions are, and what it is that we believe. And polls like this, whether they're on Facebook or in webinars, they really help industry leaders get data. You know, your reality is your truth about the industry, and it's really important that that's brought to light, because something I've experienced is what's happening aboard ships doesn't necessarily translate as well. So the modern age of social media and polls and webinars is kind of bridging that gap in a really great way. So I would like to introduce my 3 panelists for this morning, Ms. Sabeena Poonwassie, Nitzeira Watson Stewart, and Ms. Jillian Carson-Jackson. My first person is Sabeena. She is an officer of the Watts Unlimited regulation with Delta Logistics Limited. When not at sea, she has a shore-based role working with the fleet's port captains. Sabeena has been of the Nautical Institute's Younger Members Council for more than a year, working towards the interests of young seafarers in the maritime industry. Good morning, Sabeena. Thank you for being with us. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and how you've enjoyed sailing thus far?
Hi, good morning, Emily, and good morning to everyone tuning in, and thank you for that wonderful introduction. A little bit about myself. I started sailing as a cadet in 2018 and as an officer in 2021. In my current role, I'm sailing as a 2nd officer on a DP Class 2 offshore supply vessel. My experience in my career thus far has been within the oil and gas industry. A very short highlight of my career so far would have been earlier this year. My employer introduced a new vessel to the company's fleet, and I was given the opportunity to join the team that worked towards bringing the vessel up to standard. This included implementing the company's SMS, producing vessel manuals, partaking in audits, inspections, and trials. I was even given the chance to sail with the vessel from Norway to Trinidad, which was my first experience in an Atlantic crossing. So as a junior officer, you know, this experience was invaluable to me. It's definitely been my major career highlight thus far.
That's awesome. My second panelist is Nitzeira Watson Stewart. She is the president of Young Ship Panama and is the honorary secretary of Nautical Institute for Panama as well. She has also been a member of the Younger Members Council for over 3 years. She has worked as a boarding officer, port service inspector, maritime signaling technician, and was also recently recognized as the 100 most powerful women in business in Latin America. Good morning, Nitzeira. Thank you for being here today. Can you share a little bit about yourself and what Young Ship Panama is all about?
Hello, greetings from Panama. Good morning to everyone. I hope that you all enjoy our webinar. As Emily said, my name is Nitzeira Watson. I have experience as maritime signaling technician. I have more than 60 years experience in maritime industry. I'm also port inspectors. I'm also boarding officers. What can I tell you about Young Ship? Young Ship is a non-profit organization that created in Oslo, Norway. They basically say that maritime or seafarers young people need someone that help them in this industry, getting scholarship for them. Maybe they can get a job. So I just think that this was sweet for Panama, like, oh, we have a big in maritime industry here. So I just get in touch with them and tell them I need the young ship in Panama so I can help more young peoples that they can get scholarship and they can study and many things like that.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. My final guest this morning is Miss Jillian Carson-Jackson. She started sailing as a cadet in 1983. Since that time, her career has encompassed vessel traffic services, regulatory oversight of pilot services, maritime consultancy, and she was also the president of the Nautical Institute during the pandemic. Jillian represents the Nautical Institute at IALA as a chair for the Emerging Digital Technologies Working Group and the Personnel and Training Working Group as well. Good morning, Jillian. Can you share a little bit about yourself?
Good morning. It's so wonderful to be here and to hear all of the experience that we have in this room. That maritime experience we have is amazing, and the scope that we have from ship to shore. I never actually seriously considered a maritime career at all. It wasn't promoted to my high school. I really applied just by accident. I was in high school. My boyfriend applied. You know what you do. So I applied. I actually had my career mapped out as a figure skater. That didn't work. That's another story. We won't worry about that right now. But I was accepted at the Canadian Coast Guard College. My by then ex-boyfriend was not, so that was okay. And that was, as you said, in 1983. I really loved my time on the ships. I especially loved working in the Canadian Arctic. That expanse, the ice, the challenges of navigating in such a remote area, sometimes just with track soundings, the polar bears, the Arctic foxes, the bird life. It was all so beautiful. But it set me up for a career that has now spanned 40 years and 3 continents. I don't know where the time goes. It just flies by. You asked about IALA, or the International Association of Marine Aids to Navigation and Lighthouse Authorities. It's a terribly long name. That's why we call it IALA. It's a sister organization to the Nautical Institute, and we have a lot of synergy. Most recently, this has been focusing on that changing technology. With my role in the e-navigation committee, we're looking at all the developing technology and the changes in technology. And I'm also representing the NI in the vessel traffic services into the personnel and training. The Nautical Institute is really about professionalism, as David said, and about education. Now, IALA did a lot of the groundwork on a little tool called AIS that some people might know about. We're now working on the VHF data exchange system, or you can probably think of that like AIS 2.0. And so that's an area that I'm doing work in right now. Overall, the interest and the synergy between NI and IALA is that digitalization, that human-machine interaction, and a really strong focus on the human factors. And that's really at the heart of what the Nautical Institute is looking at. The role of the seafarer and the role of the maritime professional in a changing digital environment in the maritime industry. I'm honored. I'm going to be at the NI in Brazil at the end of May. I'm at the IALA conference in Brazil at the end of May. And if anyone's online and you're going to be there as well, please look me out. And I hope to see some participants there.
Wow, that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. I think it's really great, the diversity of everyone's careers here. And, you know, working in the maritime industry doesn't necessarily mean solely experience on the deck plate, on the ship. You know, service in the industry to the economy, to people's stores and the goods that they vitally need. You know, there's a lot of facets and elements to it. And whether you start at sea like myself and want to transition to sea, or you're like Nitzeira and you started on shoreside completely, like there's just, don't put limits on yourself and what it means to serve in the maritime industry. My first question is for Sabeena. What do you think can be done to encourage more young women to work on the water? And what are some of the common misconceptions about working at sea?
Well, thank you for the question, Emily. To encourage more women to work on the water, I think we need to work harder to bring awareness of the industry and the opportunities that are present in the industry. You know, as Jillian said, it wasn't really marketed to her in high school, and I went to high school about 10 years ago, and it still wasn't marketed to me. So we can do a bit more through channels like this webinar to have more officers, right? We need to have more cadets. So it has to start at a university level. So when the time comes for students to venture into university, they need to be aware of the opportunities that we have in maritime. And that's another thing that we do through the YMCA, through channels like this, we can provide more awareness. And generally, in my experience, there is a lack of valuable resources for young female seafarers looking to pursue this type of career. Just speaking from my own experience as someone who didn't grow up around sailors or know anyone that works in the seafaring industry, when this career initially sparked my interest, I turned to the internet for guidance on how to pursue it and what to expect. And at the time, the resources were very slim. So I think that we need to work harder to bring awareness and also provide the resources. So once we tell young women about the opportunities that exist, we provide the resources so that they can learn more about it. And then additionally, we need to continuously work towards creating a safe environment for female seafarers. As much as we can ask girls to sign up and to recruit and to become cadets, and there has been so much progress, but there is still progress to be made. So in order to encourage more women to work on the water, we need to bring awareness, but we also need to make sure that the industry is welcoming to young women.
Great.
Sorry, go ahead, Emily.
I agree 100%. My next question is for Nitzeira. From your own experience, why did you pursue a career in this industry? What made you start?
Well, it will sound a little bit funny. I didn't want maritime career. But when I was young, my behavior was so terrible, and my dad said, I would put you in a high school maritime so they can help you with your behavior. And nowadays, I just tell my dad, this is the best decision you will do in your life. Because I find my passion. And from this, okay, I like maritime. And I just involve myself, but I say, I don't want like be a seafarer. I don't want to be sailing. I just want to be sure. And I have many experience after this, like maritime signaling technician. So I say, this is what I like, this is what I love. After this, I say I want to go just a little bit more, and I just say I will study a master, and I study a master in maritime law, and this is what I'm involved in myself actually. But this is how I be in maritime. It's not because I did want, it's just because my dad said you have a wrong behavior and I need to do something for you in life. And I say, okay. So this is about what I like in maritime industry.
Awesome. So for young women interested in the maritime industry, but they're not necessarily interested in going to sea, what advice do you have for them for launching their career in the maritime industry?
I find many women that they say they would like be in maritime industry, but actually they don't want to be like sailing. So I tell them you have many careers that you can be in maritime, but you don't have to sail. You only have to look like for your passion. You can be in logistics, you can work in a port terminal. You have many things that you can do. Also, you can work as administrator in a maritime company. You don't have to be sailing. Maritime industry is a big word. It's not only about sailing. I think that they just have to search a little bit more and say what is about maritime industry. Also, they say no, maritime industry is only for sailing. I say no because I'm not sailing. I never have sailing in my life, but I just have been involved in many difficult sites, in many sites at maritime industry of shore. So I encourage many women that just don't close your door saying that I like the industry, but I don't want sailing. You have many things that you can do. Maritime is not about only ships. It's not only that, it's about logistics, many things that be involved in this world.
So, Jillian, what advice do you have for seafarers looking to transition, that they've been to sea, they love blue water, but it's time to come shoreside, or they're just looking for something different? What advice do you have for them?
It's such a good question, because it's something that I had no knowledge of when I wanted to come ashore. The transition from ship to shore, it can be scary, exciting, wonderful, strange, so much more. And you're probably going to waffle back and forth. Do I want to go ashore? Do I want to stay on the board? It's a really hard decision to make. When I was looking to move off the ships, I really felt that there was nothing I could do ashore. I was a navigating officer. My engineering friends, they could find stationary engineering roles in hotels, but what could I do? I was a navigator. Ashore, I could do nothing. This was probably my very first mistake. I expect lots of people feel that way. I am trained to do this one job on a ship, and I can't see myself doing that job ashore. And so I think my biggest mistake was not recognizing the transferable skill set. In fact, I was so sure I couldn't do anything ashore that when I left the ships, I was going to quit. I was going to open a secondhand bookstore. But seriously, though, for advice, a couple of points I want to really highlight. I think the biggest one is to consider why. Think about why you're looking to move ashore, and that will help you focus on what roles you can look for. And then, and this is really, really hard, it's really hard for me even now, is to believe in yourself. Don't limit your options. You all have amazing skills and experiences, everything, even all that bad stuff. And I know about some really bad stuff that happened to me at sea, but it's not, it's still valuable, because everything I've learned, everything there is valuable. Don't forget that we continually redefine ourselves. So we want to consider why. We have to believe on ourselves, and we have to realize that we're going to redefine ourselves, and don't be afraid to learn a new skill set. I'm going to give you a little bit of an insight into how bad it was when I came ashore. I had never used a computer. I was scared to death of computers. And to tell the truth, I was probably what they would call a Luddite. In fact, I was so scared, I actually forced myself out of my comfort zone. I took an adult learning course on how to use a computer. Kind of hard to believe nowadays, but that was the biggest thing. I was comfortable in my job. I couldn't be at sea anymore. I knew I had to leave and go ashore, but I didn't believe myself. I didn't believe in myself, and I wasn't sure what I could do. And then the third thing is to be flexible. So if the first shore job doesn't seem to fit, move on. You know, we're going to be waffling back and forth. We've got so much skill sets, but move on. Find something else. Go back to that why. Why did you come ashore in the first place? And one thing I've learned is that you never really know where you're going to end up. And, you know, right now, I still don't even know what I want to be when I grow up. It's a really difficult time. And I think actually this is a really great opportunity to perhaps go and take a look at one of our polls. Emily, what do you think?
Yes, I was just going to mention that. David, do you have our polls? We have 2 questions about this exact topic of transitioning. So our first question, in general, what is the age female seafarers are quitting a sea career? What we mean by this is that, you know, you've done a lot of time at sea and now you're transitioning to shore. So this will take about a minute, and David will then give us the results from the first question. And it's not so much that you're ending a career at sea, but you're still able to serve in the industry as a whole. And you know, not everyone does want to come shoreside, but some people do for various of reasons, which will be our second question. What is the driving force of women going ashore? But
yeah, I think this question, Emily, is it's more about changing your career in a way. It's about making that change, doing that switch. And we all learned in COVID about the pivot. You know, we all do that, the COVID pivot. So when you're leaving the ship, you're not leaving your knowledge, you're not leaving your experience, you're bringing that with you, and it's a richness that you're bringing ashore. But what age do you do that? It's really interesting. I'm very curious to see about this, because I know how old I was when I.
Here are the results.
Let's see.
nice.
Okay, look at that. Yeah, very good. Yeah,
Okay.
so I sort of fall in that middle age group one there. Yeah.
And our next question, if we're ready for it, David, are we ready for the second question?
We are ready. Off you
Okay,
go.
let's do it. What is the main reason why we see female seafarers ending their careers at sea? So, you know, what is the driving force? Is it a strong motive to have a short career? Is it to try something new? Committing towards family while engaging in a short career? Giving up a life of sea because it's not what we expected? Is it maybe a lack of gender equity and disappointments along the way? You know, what do you think it is? Personally, for me, I want to move shoreside just for a lot of reasons. I think I kind of fall into many reasons, not just one. Eventually, I'll want to have a family. I kind of just want to try try something new. I can't do the same thing for a long time. And for me, like being at sea has been an amazing, amazing adventure. But now I'm at the point in my life where it's time to contribute to this industry that I have received a lot from. And so that's a big motivation point for me. But Jillian, while this question is up, you said that you found out you actually had a lot of skills that were transferable more than navigation. Do you want to talk about what you discovered about yourself and what some of those skills might be?
Well, I thought it was absolutely amazing that I was, having worked on board the ship, you've got that leadership skill and these soft skills that you don't realize that you're getting because you're in that role of an officer of the watch. You're managing the crews, you're organizing their timing, great time management skills, great leadership skills, and a problem solving that I thought I didn't even realize I had. So these transferable skills that we have, no, of course, I don't use my spherical trig much right now. That's not really very transferable. But that way of thinking, that problem solving, that critical thinking skill with the digital intelligence that I gained when I took that other course is really amazing because you can transfer all of that ashore.
Okay,
Emily, do we have the results? Right. I'm not surprised by this answer either.
No, I think actually it's really interesting though. So 19%, number 4, that's definitely the reason why I moved ashore. And I love to see the fact though that personal decision to go, and that can actually come to that moving ashore and then also at a certain time, if you want, going back to sea. So there's nothing saying, I think Emily, you said it really well, you can't really do the same job all the time. It's right. Life is enriched by our experiences, and we have to sometimes go outside of our comfort zones to get those experiences.
Right. So what about you, Nitzeira? What type of skills have you learned in being in shoreside in this industry, whether it's leadership or problem solving? What can you tell us?
I can say that is basically problem solving, you know. I think that we need to encourage ourselves and help ourselves as women in this industry. Show us that we are not alone, we are together, we are strong, and just we can do it. I think that is what we can do.
And what about you, Sabeena? What have you learned since being at sea, and what are some skills that you're working on building that outside of navigation, obviously?
Well, as an officer, you go out to sea with your skills of navigation and seamanship, but when you go out to sea and you transition from cadet to an officer, it's really a leadership role. You know, you become a knowledge hub, you have to inspire confidence in your crew, and these type of skills are transferable to any type of industry. Sometimes when we move shoreside, you know, we think about logistics, we think about working at the port, but you can actually lecture at a university. There are a lot of different things that you can transition with. So in my experience as an officer, the ability, the communication skills, the leadership skills, time management, decisiveness, these have all been transferable skills that I will be able to move across with when I do decide to transition on board. And for you, Emily, I just would like to ask, like, what has your experience been like on board? Because you are functioning as a chief mate, which is a senior officer. And do you feel positive about the direction of the industry, where it's going and where it's going to be in the next few years?
Thank you for your question. So I'm a chief mate now with Mercy Ships. We have 2 vessels now, the Global Mercy and the Africa Mercy, and I am on the Africa Mercy. She did 11 months in Dakar, and now she's doing a huge shipyard overhaul in Durban. So I'm kind of overseeing that project, and it's been really interesting. We sailed around the Cape, and it was quite something, I'll tell you what. Ferry boats don't belong on the ocean, but we made it work. And, you know, it's philosophical, but to sail a ship is to believe in yourself. And, you know, you could be rolling a lot and taking on water and having engine trouble. You know, you could have everything thrown at you, but what choice do you have? You know, I can't go get a new ship, right? you have what you have, and you have to make it. Now, I don't want everyone to think we were in peril. No, 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 we were fine. We made it. But it's just like one of the, I think the big lessons is to believe in yourself. It's the biggest lesson I've learned throughout my entire career. You know, sailing a ship is hard, and standing watches and being away from your family and days where you're not treated the best, right? Like, well, what good is it to have self-doubt? What good does it do you to not believe in yourself? What good does it do you to quit your sailing contract? Like, to see it through. Like, you have no choice but to believe in yourself, because you are who you are, you know? I wish I were a bigger man. I wish I were bigger than my 115-pound self. I really do, but I am not. So I make it work. And that is the biggest thing that I found. And it's interesting because I went from a junior officer sailing on MSC ships to being a chief officer with Mercy ships, which is a huge opportunity for me. It was really unexpected. And it was kind of an opportunity you just couldn't say no to, right? Like, this is a job and a ship of a lifetime. And so I'm really humbled to work with them. But it also changed my perspective about the industry quite a lot. It's also around the time where I joined the Younger Members Council, where, you know, you go from a junior officer where you are trying to make the best of yourself, where you are trying to make a name for yourself and be successful and stand a safe watch. But then now I'm a senior officer, and this is my industry. This is my industry to fix and to solve. And if I do nothing, I am more of the same. And so it was interesting to see my own paradigm shift. And, you know, I can either help things or do nothing. And well, that's just not me. But do I feel positive about the industry? As you asked, I do. And so I will say that it is difficult to sail in this industry, and I've overcome quite a lot. I think everyone has, because, you know, it's not even gender. It's just, it's a tough industry to do. It's something that's difficult to do, to sailing across the seas. But I recently heard about the new MLC amendments, and it gives me a lot of hope. It makes me feel that the industry leaders are finally listening and taking what we have to say seriously. So before I talk about the amendment, David, do we have poll number 3?
Yes, sir.
So the final question is, what do you think about the next 5 years related to onboard conditions at sea, specifically including PPE for female seafarers? Current conditions are good and should be maintained. Current conditions are satisfactory but should be improved. And current conditions are poor and need improvement. So I would really love to hear all of your feedback on this. I think behind the scenes for a long time, mariners have been saying, we need better gear, and but I only know my small experience on a few ships in the industry, right? Like, I'm only one person, and I'm also American, so this is a global audience. So but what about you, Sabeena? How have you experienced PE thus far?
I think I would say that the conditions are satisfactory. So we have PPE on board that are there to meet the requirements of safety. But can it be improved? 100%. Because what people fail to realize that PPE can exist, but if the PPE is ill-fitting, it poses a greater danger to the seafarer to wear ill-fitting PPE than to wear no PPE at all. And I believe, like, it is a huge investment for companies to have a wide range of PPE, but it has to be done, because not only for women, for male seafarers, we have a wide range of heights, body types. You know, we all feel differently comfortable in different sizes. So we need to have something because for a life vest is more or less standard. But it can't be like that, because we have all sizes. We have a little bit of adjustment, but there needs to be more diversity within PPE. In my experience, I've been fortunate where I live close to the office that I'm employed to. So if I need PPE, I go to them, I collect it. But when you're sailing internationally and you have to travel, do you travel with PPE? And when you get to your port of call, if you don't have your PPE there with you, you can't even board the ship. So what are you going to do in this scenario where you get to the port?
Right.
There's no you. So there is enough to satisfy, I guess, safety requirements for the number of crew that the vessel has to take, but definitely more needs to be done to have it more inclusive in terms of side range, comfort, that sort of thing.
I think that's important. David, do we have the results?
There you go.
Nice. Wow, good. Okay, so I think we have a mix. 9% said option 1, that the current conditions are good and should be maintained. About half the group said conditions are satisfactory but should be improved. And 40% conditions are poor and need improvement. So I would say an overwhelming amount of people, everyone says that there should be improvement. So the new amendment, which was passed in May of 2022 by the MLC, seafarers have appropriately sized personal protective equipment to accommodate the growing number of female seafarers. But it's not just about your gender. It's not about where you're from. It's about everyone on board needs proper fitting PPE. And I've experienced this on every ship I've been on. I haven't had gear to fit me because I'm a small, petite woman, and you know, it's the paradigm is shifting where we have to take care of our seafarers, and I am grateful as someone in the industry, as someone on board the ship at the end of the line, at the end of the supply chain, right? You know, we are on board the ships, and I think it's a great thing for me as a chief mate. I now can go back to the company and say, oh yeah, this amendment, MLC, we're not compliant. We need PPE to fit this new seafarer. You know, if you have a younger seafarer new to the industry, whether that's an OS or engine rating or a new officer, are they going to speak up if their gear doesn't fit them, or are they going to be grateful for this shipping opportunity, this shipping job, and they will do whatever it takes? Meanwhile, their gear doesn't fit them. You know, if your gear doesn't fit you, you are not safe. And that is something I have had to confront. That is something I have personally experienced. Your life is at risk in a greater way than the people around you if you don't have the protective equipment that fits you properly. And so, you know, this amendment passing, I think, is a good thing for us. I think it's good for the industry where mariners are voicing concerns and it is now being listened to. If nothing else, that's what it says to me, right? But Ms. Jillian, what do you think about this? You've been in the industry far longer than me.
Yes, and I've worn my fair share of ill-fitting PPE, those big gloves that you try to put them on and you start doing something and they go flying off because they're like 3 times the size of your hand. The overalls that you use a bit of rope to tie them around to try and keep them up at the waist, and you roll them up at the bottom so you feel like you could carry your meal with you with them, and actually the big cuffs that are going up. And of course, the good old survival suit one, very good example of those Gumby suits, those survival suits that you put on. You have to jump into the water and they're way too big for you, so the feet fill up with air and they pop up and your feet go up and your head goes down, and what's supposed to help you survive is actually killing you. In fact, in the Canadian Coast Guard, to their credit, I raised the stink. And that's very unlike me, actually. When I was that age, I was 19, 20 years old, but they bought me my own survival suit. So I carried it with me from ship to ship. So I had the survival, the big bag to carry. But I think what this is a really good example of changes that we're seeing. We're seeing some changes for the better. And this is addressing the physical requirements, the PPEs. That's very good. I think we need to see a lot more focus as well now on psychological safety. So before we keep focusing on physical safety, but we need to focus on psychological safety as well. So we're starting to see changes in the industry, changes for the better. I hope that we will be seeing more changes. Psychological safety is something I'm working on right now with a foundation based out of States, actually, the COPE Foundation, and looking for changes to STCW and some training. I also want to see a focus on recruiting, going back to the first comments that Sabeena and I had, and what you were saying, Emily, about what the Younger Members Council is doing, promoting the industry further so that we can actually recruit, hiring practices, inclusive hiring practices, focusing on retention, and supporting all of this with policies that address diversity, equity, and inclusion. So the PPE is a great start. I think it's a really good opportunity to say the industry is listening. So this is something that we can work forward with, but we still have a long way to go, but bonus on that. And I love your thought that as a chief, now you can go and say, I need to get PPE and point to something. It's really important.
Exactly. But I see David is now on the screen. Do we have questions from the audience, David?
We do, Emily, and before I read out some, I would encourage more people to send in questions. Excuse me. So a couple comments more than questions coming in from Verena. Now, Verena said her first ship, she brought her own PPE when joining as a deck boy, but very interestingly, she also says that she didn't go to sea until she was 36 years old. But now at the age of 60, she has had 25 years at sea.
Wow, that's awesome.
International. But
that's awesome.
In a comment, further comment, she has said that conditions are not the problem, and this may be something that you want to discuss. It is nepotism, gender bias, prejudice, which is the biggest issue. And she goes on to say that the more precious women are perceived by fellow men seafarers and HR managers, the less attractive employment of women will be. And also offending 99% of the male population at sea. As nobody should be precious, it usually takes 6 months to get my size overalls, which is extra small. So thank you, Verena, for those comments.
Those are really good comments, and actually, yeah, I'm with you for taking your own PPE with you on board vessels. Wouldn't it be great though if it didn't take 6 months, if they actually, because of the way it is, that you actually have them in stores, that you have different sizes available. And it's not only women that are petite. I've sailed with a number of men, and even my husband when he was at sea, he's relatively petite. So it is, I think, a really great opportunity to have that information. And congratulations on that. Great decision to go to sea at that age.
Wow, 25 years at sea, that's amazing. I'm not quite there yet, but I appreciate your feedback. You've brought up a PPE element that I talk about often as well. It's not that there isn't, say, a work vest that fits me because I need a size small. It's that it takes 6 months for it to arrive. It's that it takes 30 days for the company to approve the purchase, if they approve it, right? Because there might not be funding for it, right? And then it takes 6 months to get there. And so now I've done an entire 4-month trip, my relief, and now I've come back, so I'm supposed to go, and then now I'm supposed to serve for 4 months without safety gear, and we are an accident-prone industry. The reality that something could happen, it's not a could, it's a will. At some point, an accident will occur. Are you ready? And I think it's a bit disappointing because PPE is oftentimes a one-time purchase. Get some small, but the other aspect of that comment, I think it was really good because it's like women shouldn't be considered precious at sea. We are just another crew member. And I don't know necessarily how to drive that home per se. It's like I just want to get my coffee and go to the bridge and stand my watch. And I'm not any better than a man. I am good at navigation. Yeah. So I don't know how to remove gender from the equation, because I'm also proud of my gender at the same time. One of the things I've learned is that by embracing being a woman on the deck plate, I've actually been better. I've been a better leader, right? In the United States, we are taught don't show emotion, be rigid, don't get upset. If you get upset, you will lose respect. And then with my new contract, you know, it's like, what are my leadership traits? And they did the Clifton Hughes leadership assessment, and there's many assessments out there. And it was like, you know, you're more of a leader. You like consistency. You like harmony. You like, you know, that everything is well, that people around you feel empathy. And those I always attributed as being feminine leadership traits that I had tried to suppress within myself. And now I'm finding that I am much more successful because I can't be a man. I will never be a man. And so, you know, I'm just who I am. But like, you know, are we precious? No, I don't think we're precious. I don't think we, you know, it's like, how do we get over that element? Because it is truthful. What do you think, Nitzeira?
Well, I'm going to pop in just for a second while Nitzeira is thinking about that, but I think it's a really good point that you brought out, that you have realized that it's important to benefit from innovation. We already know that diversity leads to innovation, and that diversity, if we have a diverse view, we actually are very much stronger. That we're much better as an industry if we embrace our diversity. When I went to sea, I tried very much to be a man. I tried to be like the guys. And I realized that that is not where my strength lies. And so, Emily, well done for you to sort of see that you need to really be true to who you are. And I think one of the things that we can do is work on this normalizing of the different genders at sea. I can't wait till we come to a day when it's no longer the first of, you know, I was the first female president of the Nautical Institute. I can't wait till we get rid of the firsts. And things like this, webinars that we have, raising awareness, being supporting, being welcoming, and recognizing that our strength lies in our differences. That is going to be the way I think that we'll move forward. So those are just my thoughts.
You know, one thing they talk about in office settings is the critical percentage, and it's about 30 to 35%. And what I found when I went to Mercy Ships is that they are extremely diverse. It's the most diverse workplace that exists. There's people from every country, 70 countries, 400 people, doctors, nurses, you know. And what I found is as soon as I walked on board, it's about 45% women. And instantly, once you hit that critical percentage, all of this rhetoric goes away. You're a crew member, you're a surgeon, you're a nurse, you're a mate, right? It instantly disappears. And so, you know, how do we get rid of women being precious? Well, have enough of us that it's not precious, you know? What do you think about that, Sabeena?
I think when you join a vessel, there are two extremes for women. There is the extreme of your colleagues thinking that you are very delicate and you get passed over for certain tasks. And it's like, you know, let me handle this, or let somebody go with you. And then there's the other extreme where they say, well, you're a woman, you need to come out here and prove yourself. We're going to actually make it harder for you so that you can prove yourself. So my advice to somebody like who commented in the question, or any other seafarer that may be watching, is your competency is the only thing that matters. You have this license, the same license as your colleague, you've been through the same training, you're sailing on the same ship. Your competency is the only thing that matters. You don't have to prove yourself. And one of the things that women tend to do is they try to lead like a man. They try to go on a ship, and their goal is to not make it a big deal that I'm a woman. At the end of the day, you're a female seafarer. You can't hide that. You have to embrace that. I'm not saying to make that your entire identity, but you have to remember that you're a female seafarer, and you're going to be able to accomplish things in different ways than your male counterparts, but it's for the same result. So just remember that your competency is the most important thing, and don't burn yourself out trying to prove, well, I'm just as tough as a man. You're going to get nowhere with that.
What about you, Nitzeira? Like, what have you experienced in, you know, the shoreside sector in regards to all of this?
Well, my experience is different from both of one experience on ship, but basically, yes, you can find that someone say that what you're doing in this industry, you know, this is for men, this is not for women, and those things like that. I have myself involved in this. And what I always told them that you're a man, I'm a woman, we don't have difference. The same that you can do, the same that I can use. So those don't want to be like putting me like down because I'm a woman, I cannot do those things, you know. I think that all of we have the same capacity to do many things. It's like I told him that, okay, I'm a woman, you cannot cook, so because you're a man. So don't tell me that because I'm a woman, I cannot be in maritime industry. So what I do is that encourage women, if they can do it or if they dream for it, they just do it, you know, do what you like. Don't make many people tell you that you can't. I always said bad comments and just put it in good comments and go for it. Go for what you want and just go for your dreams.
I agree. That's excellent. David, I think we have time for one more topic or question. Do we have any?
Oh, we certainly do.
Oh yeah, keep them coming.
And I will remind people that we will read everything, whether we get to it or not. A couple comments first and then a question. So there's a Captain Andre here, and he said, to you, Emily, thank you very much for speaking about this. By doing that, you're making a huge difference. Another comment, this is from Verena, who wrote in earlier, who said she went to sea at 36. She said she wanted to go to sea at 16, but it took 20 years to achieve an 8,500 applications before she actually got into a position at sea. So there's perseverance for you.
Yeah, oh my goodness. That's
Oh yeah,
amazing.
it's great. You gotta get your email.
Yeah, wow, what a story.
Another comment, Christiana, thank you so much, ladies. I am a lady captain pilot, airline pilot. I have been in the sky for over 25 years. We face similar issues to you in the maritime world. And a question by Philippa, do you think women suffer more from imposter syndrome than men in the industry? If yes, why? The few women I know, even those sailing as master, and I include myself, always appear to be questioning and doubting ourselves and our abilities. Is it just that we are more open and honest about this? What can be done about this?
Oh, that's a big one.
Yeah, well, I honestly was, I had a conversation with my husband, is it even appropriate for me to be a host of this webinar, right? Like something that's small and a small contribution, but I'm here and I'm doing it. And I believe you should do what you can, wherever you can, no matter what. And so whether that's contributing to people's lives or you don't want to just apply for that job, just go for it. Take a chance on yourself.
Really, it's so easy to say. Imposter syndrome is so big, and I feel for you. I do believe that you had a really good point in the question there, that we might be more open about it, but I do believe that imposter syndrome is real. It is sometimes can almost be debilitating. And it is that self-belief, that realizing that what you've done is actually valuable, because there has been science behind this as well. Studies been done that a woman won't go for a job unless she meets 100% of all those criteria elements on it. But a man will go for a job if they reach 60% of those criteria elements. And that's just that's that sort of difference. So that's one of the factors, one of the percentages that come out. But imposter syndrome is real. Yeah. Realize that you might have it, and that's fine. Work on that awareness, the support, and talk to each other. That self-belief, being strong, looking towards a goal, sort of setting the course, adapting, supporting others, that will really make a difference. But yes, that imposter syndrome, it is, I think the best way to do it is those affirmations and realizing, going back and even just writing down, what is it that you have done, and realizing all of the things that you have achieved, and Emily and Sabeena and Nitzeira, all the things that you have achieved already. Now you're going to have a goal and you're going to make such differences in the world as we go ahead, but you've already achieved so much.
Wow. I think I exist in imposter syndrome is something that I'm constantly trying to navigate. And I think for women, the imposter syndrome, it trickles into so many different things. We don't apply for jobs when we are negotiating our salary. We tend to go on the lower range of what we accept. And in my experience, what I do, because I know it's what helps me, is I try to encourage others. You know, I've had a day on the sea where it was extremely challenging, and I questioned myself every point down the line. And then at the end of my shift, the captain was like, well, you did a very good job today. And honestly, that news was it was surprising to me, because we live in our heads and we are constantly doubting every action that we take on a ship. So that reassurance is very helpful. So in my role, if I have a cadet, I try to be reassuring to them, because imposter syndrome, a ship is a very intimidating place. Male or female, you're gonna experience imposter syndrome. So, you know, my advice is to reassure yourself and to reassure others, and never undersell yourself.
Yeah, I can't speak as to whether I feel more imposter syndrome than the men around me. I think, you know, I think we vocalize it more. I think we're more willing to admit our emotions at times. But yeah, you just got to take a chance on yourself. But I think if you have doubt, I think it shows that you're taking your job seriously, that you're taking, you know, there's people under my charge. There are lives aboard this ship, and that's not a small thing. And so I kind of tell myself that the doubt I'm having, am I good enough to do this, just shows me that I'm taking this job seriously. Because if I didn't care, I wouldn't feel this way. And so it's better that I feel this way. But we have about 5 minutes left. So let's see, Nitzeira, is there anything that you'd like to say to the group before we sign off?
Yes, I would like to say that in my own experience, I just try to encourage women to go ahead for their dreams. I always put myself as example, you know. I received many negative comments in all my career, and I told them if I should just pay attention to this negative comment, I will not be here. I will not achieve what I achieve in this life. And what I'm doing, what I'm working with many females from high school, told them about maritime life. What is this? This is a wonderful word. So just go ahead for the goals. That's what I have to say.
Sabeena, do you have anything you'd like to say to the group before we end this webinar?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think that if there are any students here and they have two minds about going to sea, definitely go to sea. You know, this career is very fulfilling. It's very rewarding. You get to see the world in a very unique way that a lot of other people don't see. There is challenges that exist, but in my experience, it has been progress, and progress is moving very, very fast. And it's going to be better. It's going to be more welcoming. The numbers may seem small, but you'd be surprised the number of women that are currently working on the water. The number of women that are already in command. So it's quite remarkable, and I would encourage anybody with any sort of doubt, if you guys want to reach out to seek some first-hand experience, that's no problem at all. But definitely take the leap. It's a very rewarding career.
So I would like to say, you know, to go to sea, to serve in this industry, is to take a chance on yourself. I have seen the industry improve. I think we owe a lot to the women that came before us in the 1970s and 80s, and you know, gosh, what pioneers that they were, even in the 90s and early 2000s. You know, I've never been the only woman aboard a ship ever, right? And that is something, there's always been somebody else, a steward, a cook, an engineer, somebody, and I've never been alone. And I have been a recipient to the women that come before me, and I think it's important to acknowledge that as well. I want to thank everyone for tuning in today, wherever you're from. The views expressed in this webinar are those of us speakers. We do not represent any organization. And I'll turn it over to Jillian to end the webinar.
Sure, thank you so much.
Good. Jillian,
yeah, Dave, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. Just before you wrap up, there's this very strong statement I just want to read out by a guy named Captain Andre. And he says, this has been one of the most powerful webinars he has ever attended. As a captain,
so
regularly sailing with female officers in all ranks, I have learned so much. Well done, Young Members Council. Over to you, Jillian.
Yes, and you know, what else could I say to the Young Members Council? It is wonderful to see the strength and the power in the Young Members Council. And I think that we had some really good points that came out. This idea of reaching the tipping point. We are in the process of moving towards that area. You know, I had that big call about a year ago, say 2 to 20%. Let's go from 2% to 20% and beyond of representation of women at sea. Normalize this aspect so it's no longer a woman at sea. You're just at sea. You're just doing your job. And that is really where we always want to be. There are so many opportunities in maritime, afloat and ashore. There is the digital developments. There are the areas that Nitzeira had mentioned. We need to raise awareness of the scope and the breadth of this industry. Having that self-belief, being strong, looking towards the goal, and communicating, benefiting from all of the experiences that we have, so that we are moving through our careers and we can support others entering this industry, because we are communities of experts. To be able to get all of those in there, as I always really believe, is that you have to be able to see it. You have made a wonderful job of demonstrating and to see it. Those who are online, if you're thinking about it, you have to believe that you can actually do it. A lot of it's that self-belief, getting over that imposter syndrome, having the belief in order that you can actually be it. We are communities of experts. We together can achieve so much more than we can individually. And that's where the Nautical Institute comes in. It is a membership organization, professionals from around the world, from across the industry, and we can have those experiences within that NI professional community. The Nautical Institute is very serious about diversity and inclusion. The pledge was launched in 2020. We have reviewed and we're working on ensuring that we have inclusivity in all of the work that we do. There's always more that we can do. And I know that we need to have the encouragement of all of our members, the encouragement of all of you who are online today. So thank you very much for all of your great points. Let's keep the discussion going. And wherever you are, have a great morning, an evening, or afternoon. We hope that you join us into the Nautical Institute. And Emily, you've done an amazing job. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
So become a member, guys. Join our community and help us spread the word.